So now that we're done with most of the modeling, we're going to focus in this video and the next couple about the texturing process. Now I generally like to keep my texturing ultra basic, just like the modeling and everything else in the workflow, if you've noticed. And the reason for this is that I always want to achieve a very fast rendering scene, as well as on the modeling side, a fast editable scene. So I really don't want to have very long time lags between showing different variations to the client. And I don't want to waste too much time going for that ultra real look. I just want to make sure that the main content has been shown and that the material represents, however vaguely, the actual surface that there will eventually be. Now I'm going to drag in the folder which has all of the textures, and we're going to go through the process of creating some of them. You'll see that there isn't really a long list of textures here. We have the one for the palm tree that we've used. We're going to be adding the texture for the soccer field. We have a texture here for instance, the glass facade. So here we have a plain blue glass facade. These are all just textures that I have found from photos online, and I've just cropped them out and I've just aligned them, stretching the points out to make them orthogonal so that the verticals and horizontals are all in place. Then I've manually gone and created a bump map, just drawing the vertical and horizontal lines in Photoshop, and then using the paint bucket tool to get the black and white. Similarly for the glass bump, I've inverted that, and I've just added some shading to make the glass look slightly more irregular. So all of these things are just made on the fly from photos. I won't really necessarily use insanely high texture sizes. For instance, the glass is just 1000 by 800. It's pretty basic. For the balustrade, I've also looked at a photo and I've just aligned it to get one of these modules, timber handrail, stainless steel side, and that has its own opacity to it that we will then apply to our model. The concrete walls, we have a cladding here, also found from a photo. And similarly, the swimming pool, also from an aerial photo online, just realigned to get all the corners to be correct. And then all of these things we will go and apply. Now I'm not going to focus too much time on the texture creation process, since this tutorial is mainly about the modeling workflow for these type of larger projects. So what I'm going to do is I will set up the texture for the glass facades, because that is really the slightly trickier part, since we have a more multi-layered effect happening with the glass and the light coming in from the inside of the building. And then the rest of the materials I will create on the side, and then we'll come back to the completed textured version, simply because once we create one or two textures, you'll get the idea, and I don't really have to show you the individual texture creation process for every single material, since they are all extremely down to the pure basic form, just a V-Ray material with a diffuse and very rarely an opacity bump or reflection to it. So that is just about it for almost all the materials. So let's dive right in. We're going to go now to the facade, and we're going to isolate this object. Now the facade is just a solid block for now, and we can start by making a couple of modeling changes to it already. We can go and delete the top and the bottom because, well, we don't need that. And the next thing we want to do is over here, this section at the bottom doesn't really have any apartments to it or any residential hotel units. So we can actually detach this, and it's going to have a slightly different texture. So what we're doing now is we're chopping up the model so that we're left with just the section that we want to use for our glass. Now, there are different methods to getting the glass and the facade done. One of the quickest methods is just to apply a texture to it, make it reflective, render it as a sleek glass building, and there you go. In literally 10 seconds, you can have the entire thing up and running. The other methods are individually modeling the vertical edges so that you can get all your frames. Then you can generate your individual window frames out of that geometry. So there are those different options available. We will do something similar to what I've just explained for the bottom retail, which we'll come to most likely in the next video. So the first thing I would like us to do is we're going to create a copy of this, and we're going to pull it slightly towards the inside. so that we can create a kind of inner, what I like to call a curtain object. So this will be the one that will have some lighting effects to it, and it will give an impression that there is something happening inside the building. So all you do is you go Control V, make a copy of your object, and immediately I like to apply that object to a new layer. In this case, since our facade is on 03, we can type in here 03, and I like to call that curtains. And I'll just add that to that layer. You can change the color if you like. Let's make it a orange pale color. So in your views, all you want to do is you just want to pull it in slightly. You can do this by eye, no real reason to make it too accurate. And then in the front view, we can pull it in as well. And here we can let it go right to the top. So in perspective view, we've now created a kind of duplicate shell inside our building. We're going to be texturing both of these. So let's go to our material editor. Let's reset that. And we're going to start by doing the glass. So let's click on V-Ray. We'll add a V-Ray material, and we're going to call this glass facade. And we're going to go into our texture folder and scroll down and find that blue glass texture and open that. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to add some reflectivity and some bump to it. So let's go down to the other channels. We can add a reflect right here. We can just drag that down, copy, and then update that file to be the actual reflection that we have here. Let's go up a level, scroll down, and let's add some bump. So now to just bring down some of these values so that they're not too reflective. We're also going to be using a refraction for the glass. So let's copy this down to refract. Make a copy of that. You could also easily make an instance if you like. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set the reflection down to 25 and the refract down to 50. And let's have a look at that material. So basically we have the blue glass diffuse, we have some reflection happening only where we want it to inside the frames. We have the bump creating the impression of these frames actually being somehow 3D, even though it's faked. And then the refraction giving us some transparency onto the inside. So let's apply that material and let's show ourselves what that material looks like. Then let's add a UV. Let's just type UV and enter. Box. And let's go down to bitmap fit. And let's select that blue facade texture there. Then let's go into our front view. And our scaling is almost right here, just off the bat. So let's just adjust it slightly. We need to bring it down a couple of notches. This sometimes takes a little bit of patience to get perfectly aligned with your building. So especially since if you have many layers. So here I still need to make it ever so slightly smaller. So I could type 99.8 there and just see if it's coming. So I'm going to say for our sake that this is more or less there. I still do need to tweak it ever so slightly. There we go. I think that's more or less correct. We can go down by a tiny notch just to adjust it to there. So what we want to do is we want to get each one of these vertical lines to adjust with our building. Now what's great about this is that our form has been curved, but our texture material is still running vertically. So we don't have any diagonal window frames going up this way, which is what would have happened if we had chosen the option of modeling this and connecting. Then we would have had all these diagonal window frames. So I've just gone with a very basic approach, which is kind of ideal for this conceptual modeling that we're doing here. So now that we've done the window, the next video will show us how to do the interior of that light curtain, and that's going to be the next material we will get to. So this one has just been a kickoff to get us into the texturing phase, and we've done one of the main materials being the glass facade, and the next one will be coming right up so that we can complete these towers in a moment.